All right, guys. Hey, it's Jeff, and it's so good to be here with you guys. I mean, what a beautiful day out there. I feel like summer is here already. It's amazing, and it's just such a good feeling. And another good feeling I get is when I get to interview women like this lady right here. This is Reverend Marilyn Redmond, and she is a counselor. She's an author, an artist, a spiritual teacher, and a speaker. And her website, angelicasgifts.com. That's ANGELICAS gifts.com, angelicasgifts.com. And you know what? She has written many books, and she's helping people every day. She's got a lot going on today, so we're going to get her on the line because we got to get her going. This woman is busy, so let's get her on. Marilyn, are you there?
I am here, and thanks for having me this call today, Jeff. I like being on your show.
Well, we love having you, and like I said, whenever I hear that you're going to be on, we kind of we do we shoot it out, rock paper scissors, we Indian wrestle, we do whatever we can do to see who's going to be doing the interview. So well, I won out. So they're all duct taped in the closet, and I'm doing the interview. So that's it.
Well, congratulations on being the winner.
All right. Well, anyway, Marilyn, I want to just maybe give us a minute or so of some background on yourself for any listeners who haven't heard you before.
Well, thank you. Yes, I'm from Seattle, Washington, and I went to high school in Bremerton, which was just across Puget Sound from there, and graduated valedictorian and went on to become a teacher, going to Western Washington State University and getting my fifth-year certification at the University of Washington. And the funniest part of all of this is that my poorest grade in school was English. I got a B+ instead of an A.
Wow.
Could have ever guessed I would turn out to be a writer. I didn't think I could write because my grades were never, I was always very driven.
Right.
And looking for perfect scores, of course. In my English classes, I just never could get the grade up there I wanted and expected of myself. So, I never see myself as a writer.
Wow.
And as life progressed, I ended up helping my husband in a printing business, and he had a little newspaper he put out, and I didn't know I could even do it. He says, you're the editor, and write some columns, and we're going to put out this little newspaper. And that was my first writing experience, and it actually turned out really pretty good.
Yeah.
It was called Poor Richard's Newsletter. Well, years ago, Benjamin Franklin had Poor Richard's in his writing, and It was a takeoff on Ben Franklin's newspapers. But that was kind of the beginning that I could even write, and I took, of course, some writing classes and ended up at the Santa Barbara Writers Conference. I won an award for my poetry in New York in 1991. And at that conference, I met some people that told me about the Santa Barbara Writers Conference, and I attended that conference for 7 years. And I was rubbing shoulders with people like Ray Bradbury, Charles Schultz's son, who, of course, Charles Schultz did Snoopy.
Right.
Everybody knows Snoopy.
Yes, absolutely.
Schultz would show up and talk at our classes. Fannie Flagg, who wrote Fried Green Tomatoes. The daughter of Loretta Young came and told about her book she wrote about her mother, the movie star.
Wow.
Frankie Lane, the singer. If you've heard old songs from the 50s, you know who he is.
Right.
And Anna Huffington was there and talked about her book. So I was around some pretty important people for several years learning how to write. They were marvelous teachers. We even had a huge laughing session when Jonathan Winters showed up for a class.
Oh, wow. I love Jonathan Winters.
Yeah, so, it was a marvelous time, and then I took local writing classes, and they had a contest, and I entered it was an international writing contest, and guess what? I won the International Writing Contest, and my article is on my website. It was called All-Time Victim. Of course, from my past, I was writing about domestic violence I was in. And so one thing led to another, and one class said, well, you need to send out your work and get it published. And so in 1995, I was first published internationally, and I've been writing ever since. I just love it.
Yeah. And now, how many books do you have?
Well, I have 10 books, and some of those are e-books, but they're all on Amazon.com.
Wow.
And my first book was Roses Have Thorns, which chronicles in poetry my growing up and experience in domestic violence. And I also illustrate all my own material because after I went to a convention in Australia and snorkeled at the Great Barrier Reef, I came back so enthusiastic about all the coral and the animals, the tortoise and the clam shells that were huge and open.
Yeah.
I mean, I came back and started painting, and so at this point I paint all my and draw all my own illustrations. So that first book started me on the next book, and I've been my biggest book was 25 years in putting together Paradigm Busters Reveal the Real You, and that's basically the premise of all my writing, is moving out of our fears and our resentments and guilt and shame into a life that's really loving and unconditional love.
Right.
So this last book I just finished was Finding Reality Beyond Fear, and I'm just excited about it because it's my story of how I took each of the principles of the universe and applied them to my life.
Right.
So people can see how if I can leave domestic violence, 9 addictions, mental illness, I had that in a couple forms, and also arthritis, hypoglycemia, all kinds of different illnesses. If I can get to the other side and outgrow those emotional-based illnesses, which is what I'm really learning and teaching people about, is our illnesses come from our lower fearful energies. And if we change those into higher consciousness, we are in love, and love heals. That's the name of my radio show, Love Never Fails. And so, I've learned a lot through my journeys, and I like to share it with other people. It's possible. And my radio show this afternoon at 3 o'clock my time, Pacific time, but 6 o'clock your time on the East Coast, Love Never Fails on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio, is going to talk about healing guilt and shame into having feeling like you're a worthy person, that you have value, and you are whole and healthy and happy. And we can move out of our problems of the past if we choose to take the steps necessary, and there are always steps of moving into more and more love of our life and releasing what didn't work.
Yeah. And now in this book, Finding Reality Beyond Fear, I mean, you talk a lot about how we're superficially away, right? We're superficially perfect, and how we grow from that, but yet that's not what it's all about, right? I mean, is that where our dysfunction comes from, because we don't realize certain, what is the book? Where are you going from this book exactly when you're talking about that?
Okay, the book's in 4 parts.
Okay.
And the first part is moving through the stages of overcoming our lower energy from based in fears.
Okay.
All the guilt, shame that we pick up from our families and society. Our society has done a big trip on everybody. They go to the doctor. Well, he looks for what's wrong. You go to school. Well, you failed this test. You go to church. Well, you're a sinner. All those things are keeping us in our lower energy and keeping us sick.
Right.
So as you start to see the truth is it that you were created in love, you are a loving being, and you take the steps to itemize and detail each one of these messages that aren't really true, that we believed, because we were told that, but nobody seems to question it. That's the sad part. They just buy it hook, line, and sinker.
Right.
So as you identify, if it's your fear of growing, someone just the other day I was helping with, I do a lot of counseling on at my house, but also on Skype and on the radio. And they were fear of dying. And so I said, well, spirit never dies. You transition into this loving place that most people would call heaven, but heaven's really on earth. We just have blinders on from fear, and we can't even see we're already in heaven.
Right.
But we transition into this spirit world where it's all love. And so what's there to be afraid of when you die? So when you start to get the facts that, what we've been taught is how terrible it is to die. Well, the reality is in spirit is eternal, and we just keep coming back till we finally grow into that loving, eternal, loving energy of the universe until we actually grow up is really the bottom line. My last section of the book, you start out with all the problems of the world, so to speak.
Right.
And you grow through them, and you can find out as you move on that there's the second part lists a lot of slogans, which some people call corny, but one day at a time, or let it be, this too shall pass, Take it easy, easy does it, various slogans. Those are all ways to help keep your life going in a better way.
Right.
And so as you apply ways to handle your life so you're coming from a loving response instead of a reacting from fear, which is immature. So you move into that loving response and move forward, you start to realize that a lot of things we've been taught aren't real, and they have been purposely perpetrated on us to keep us from growing beyond, coming out of Pandora's box, you might say.
Right.
And as we come out of Pandora's box, we can actually, in my case, heal mental illness, heal addiction, and heal the illnesses of our lives, domestic violence, and so forth. So we put love on those situations and release what isn't true for what is true, separate the truth from the false, and then my last section of the book is about alchemy. This is an old way of explaining moving the dense metal into the gold within, to being valuable. Gold, of course, is thought of as having value, and you have value. You were created with that value. But the church, hundreds of years ago, had such control over what was taught and preached that they didn't want people to know they had control over their own lives. They wanted to, of course, be in control and have the answers for everybody. So people in those days, if they were trying to move out of that old information,
right,
put the story into alchemy. And if you look into what alchemy is about, it's been around for hundreds of years, learning that we can transition out of that lower, dense energy, which is a carbon-based body that we have. And right now on Earth, everybody's moving into a crystalline body. We're moving into a higher consciousness because the planet is evolving. Now, this is a different book, but it's also partly in the last part of this book. We're all moving into that higher consciousness of unconditional love, which means we're all growing up, and we don't have to react like a scared little kid with the boogeyman. That's what fear is about.
Right.
There's no fear. If the sun comes out, there's no darkness, and that's really what alchemy is about.
Right.
It's changing the energy from the dark into the light. Excuse me a minute. Right. I'm going to get a drink of water.
No, that's fine. That's fine. And I just I'm just very engaged in what you're saying. I just when you speak to people and you work one-on-one with them and you do your counseling, there must have been, you went through all this. There's that point, I think, with people where they just have really given up. And even no matter what you tell them, it's almost like their eyes are just shut and their ears are shut. They could say the eyes of the heart or whatever. But what's your approach to that when you speak to people like that?
Well, everybody's right where they're supposed to be. And if they're ready to listen, they are very eager. I had a fellow here last night. We literally healed his soul from some shame he had gone through as a child and was actually causing marital problems in his life.
Right.
And they showed up as a couple originally, and he's still coming. And we were literally able to pick the pieces that were shattered in his soul that was broken through experiences growing up and bring those pieces back together in the love of the universe. Love is glue, and when you glue those pieces back together, you become whole. We're all whole spirits, holy spirits, but we've been damaged. And so if people aren't ready to do that, when they are, they'll show up. So I have people that come for various times, and then they leave, and then they come, I need some more help because they're ready. It's the willingness and the readiness is a big part of it.
Right.
Some people are going to be coming. I talk about reincarnation with my help, and some people will be coming back and finishing this later because some of us are old souls, and some are new souls, and the old souls are ready to heal, and they're the ones usually ready to listen because they've tried everything that didn't work.
Right.
And now they're ready to hear something that does work differently and see if it's going to be the answer, and of course love is always the answer.
Yeah. And, Marilyn, let's talk a little bit about that. Now, is that with your show, your radio show, is that what you talk about on Love Never Fails? You talk about passing over or past life therapy, or is it really just
I have a wide range of topics. I seem to have I have a lot of hats, let's put it that way, a lot of different talents.
Right.
So what I've been doing is, at the first to start off the show is talking about various parts of holistic health. And then we've been moving into how can you change some of these energies into working for you. Today's show will be about healing guilt and shame, because shame is the basis for addictions. And people have that shame, and this person that was here last night is coming out of addiction. And so we were needing to heal that part of his life so he can now be productive and have the good feelings and the prosperity that really truly is his and work for him. So next week we're going to talk about angels, and then we'll have some sessions about, it's going to be a variety of things, because I love talking about all these things that help us grow and have a better and more enriched life. So I have a list of things that I do talk about, but I don't have it with me right now. But I'll be covering a wide range of topics. Plus, I really want people to call in with their questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a call-in talk show. I've answered a few questions on the air, but we're always looking for more people to call in. In fact, I'll give them the number right now.
Go ahead.
866-451-1451. And I have been in this business now for over 30 years, and so I've answered a lot of different questions, so people shouldn't be shy. There's usually something comes along and people say, well, I don't want to ask this or whatever, but if it's on your mind, it's probably on other people's minds too. So I'm encouraging and inviting people to call in with their questions, and they're not only helping themselves, they're probably helping other listeners too.
Right. Hey guys, if you're just tuning in, I am with Reverend Marilyn Redmond. She is a counselor, she is an author, she's an artist, spiritual teacher, she's a speaker, many, many things, many hats, as she said. Her website, angelicasgifts.com. And Marilyn, where can all your work, is that available on your site, Amazon? Where can they pick that up?
Well, if they go to my my website, they're going to see a lot of the different things I handle and do and take care of. But my writing is all on Amazon.com.
Okay.
And I have a blog, and they can check me out on my blog at marilynredmondbooks.blogspot.com. And if they want to hear the interviews like we're doing today, I also have lectures, and I also channel on YouTube. I have over 100 interviews, lectures, and programs on YouTube.
Wow.
So I'm available, and of course they can always call me at 253-845-4907. And my email is Marilyn at, and you mentioned this earlier, angelicasgifts.com. So if they go to my website, they can email me from there. You can Google me and find me on Google and the search engines. So I'm pretty available and out there, and I love to help people and share what I've learned, because, I did it the hard way, and you don't have to do it the hard way. You can learn from what I've experienced.
Right. No, absolutely. And, you'd be a fool not to take advantage of it. But, Marilyn, let me ask you, you were talking before, I would go back a little bit, but you were talking about how shame is the basis and really the bottom line to all addiction. And you mentioned a gentleman who was working through that. Now, take us through, something like that. Now, are there affirmations? What does a person need to do if they came to you like that? I mean, no names or anything, but how would you work with them?
Well, in this case, I suggest that people come and work for a while on higher topics. It's kind of like going deeper and deeper. So we start on the surface. What's the problems that are in your life right now?
Right.
Those are very indicative of what's lower. But it's kind of like digging a hole, or different levels of progression, that you look at what's on the surface, and then you take the next level and next layer of what pops up, because these are the things that have to be healed. It's all about our energy inside, our feelings, and changing them. And the reality around us is what's coming out from those feelings, which are suppressed and stuffed. And in addiction, you stuff it with whatever addiction you have.
Right.
You can be an overeater, you can be a smoker, you can be, prescription drugs, you can be on street drugs, you can be on alcohol. What combinations of drugs and alcohol are very smart. but anything that will stuff your feelings. So we want to look at those different things and what are you doing that's stopping your feelings from flowing. And as we start to get into people's feelings, they can change them from, being suppressed to and being like a robot or I was the Walking Dead at one point.
Yeah.
And you move those feelings out. And you start to learn to feel your feelings and be comfortable with feelings because they're just energy in motion, and you don't have to be afraid of feelings. And so as you work into learning about how to handle your feelings, this fellow's been working on it for quite a long time,
right.
And it was like this was the time finally to bring those pieces back that were splintered off of his soul, and we go into regression, and we go into the little boy inside, and we talk to that little boy about where did it start, where did you first feel shamed,
right.
And so those stories come up, and we look at those stories to see that the situation could be turned around and see it from a healthier, bigger picture, that possibly how this happened was misinterpreted sometimes as a little child. In my case, I saw my life as a 3-year-old, even though I was an adult, because that's where I was shut down emotionally. So to change the picture of what I'm seeing into a loving resolution, and to let them know that that little child always was safe, always was loved, was always valuable and had worth, and that we bring them into a feeling of feeling good about themselves, that they're whole, happy, their pieces of their spirit have been glued back together. And you mentioned affirmations. One of the things I like to use is it's okay to be one with God, it's okay to feel good, it's okay to enjoy love, it's okay to share love. It's okay to move in love. It's okay to express love. It's okay to experience love, and it goes on for, some more. So as you gradually grow into this new space, and then we tape record this while it's going on,
right.
And they can continue to reinforce it, so it's not just hearing it once. That opens the door. But as you play, I have everybody bring a thumb drive, and I put it on their thumb drive each time they come. We've regressed and healed in that part of their growing.
Right.
And then they take it home with them and can play it as often as they can to reinforce the good, positive messages, because the old negative messages are hopefully going to be replaced by the positive ones, and they don't have to be taking up space in your brain anymore.
Right, absolutely. Wow, that's good. That's real good. And then let me ask you, the whole shame thing, and I understand, and that's how you work through that and everything. But with you personally, is this and with everybody that you're helping, but is this something that's just it's never gone, right? It's just really how now you choose to look at that situation, right? You're not trying to teach, hey, just totally forget about it. It's is that, or we're just replacing it?
Well, there's some misunderstanding about how that works, and what I've found out from my experience is it's all about energy and feelings, so the history is still going to be there.
Right.
You don't have to feel the old feelings of the shame. You can replace the energy with seeing it neutrally, that this was necessary for me to grow beyond it. I don't have to react off of it anymore and feel that old way. I can move forward into a better future, and it's not going to be like a rock on me anymore.
Right.
Oh, but it's not that the history has changed. It's your perception and energy that you've put into it before is changed. So you're handling your life in a more mature, grown-up way. Everything that comes along, you respond in a loving way. What is the most loving resolution for me and the other person, rather than playing the victim or the poor me or whatever, I'm not worth anything. So, when I was a kid, it was I'll go eat worms. There was a little ditty.
Yeah.
So bad, I just think I'll go eat worms.
Right.
But so you can change that and say, well, yes, this had to happen because this is where I am today, and I've learned from it. And these were the things I experienced, and I can be a better person now because I understand that that was a little child's reaction, and I don't have to be a little child. See, if you're in a resentment, it's really just a 5-year-old throwing a temper tantrum.
Right.
You can grow beyond it. And so it's not that we totally change it. to leave it totally forgotten, forgive and forget, but it's our response is different. We move beyond that old response into handling our lives in reality.
Yeah. Wow, that's great. One thing I'm curious about, Marilyn, and I don't know a lot about, but when you talk about past life therapy, and how we have, and I've heard that some people old souls, some people are not, they're young souls, whatever. I don't understand it a lot. Can you kind of explain that to me, how that works as a therapy?
Yes, I'd love to, because part of what happens is the energy from your past lives, which some people have different terms for that. It's really, because in spirit there is no time. Mm-hmm. It's all the same. So it's an old experience in your energy system that is still coming to the surface and motivating your life from that old experience, and you're wanting to change your focus and your understanding of what that was about. So it's a memory that's in your system that needs to be looked at and healed. Right. So as you bring it to the surface, I put hypnosis is regression. It's like being in a state of meditation, and in that state, you are in a neutral state of energy, and so you're not in your fear, you're not in your ego, which puts out all those negative emotions. You move out of that space, and that's where you can literally transform the energy into loving resolutions, is through being in a neutral space, which we call now. So being in the presence of love actually is neutral. Right. It's not good or it's not bad. It just is. Life is good. And when you're in that space, you can heal that old memory. And whatever the memory was, we forgive the people that were involved, usually family members or close friends or people in our lives that are in our circle have created those old memories out of helping us actually. So it comes to the surface for us to see that's something that needs to be healed. Most people don't understand that everybody around us is a mirror and reflects that energy back to us. So if you have somebody in your life that's causing you a lot of difficulty, well, man, you're sending it out, and they're reflecting it back, and that's the energy you change. So we go into the memory in a regression state so you can see what the story behind it is. I've had several people have this happen when we were healing past lives, and one woman showed up, and she was attracting codependent men, and she'd had enough.
Jeez.
And in the middle of our session, she says, "Oh, is that what I'm doing? I don't have to do that anymore."
Wow.
It helps you to see what you've done that wasn't productive.
Yeah.
And you can then change and make appropriate reactions to things that are going to give you better results.
Gotcha. Wow. Well, thank you. Thank you for explaining that to me, because that's something I just had always had a question about, and you answered my question. And tell me a little bit now. We have a little bit more time, but tell me about what's going on today with Ashtar Legacy.
Oh, well, I just feel so honored. I've been channeling now for quite a few years, Masters on the other side. Mm-hmm. I started out channeling St. John from the Bible. John, he calls himself John the Divine. That's what he likes to be called. And I've had a lot of channeling sessions on YouTube with John. Right. And when you do a lot of meditation, you start connecting with higher consciousness, and then the psychic abilities started showing up, and then the more I continued to be very extended into meditation, then I started channeling higher consciousness than third and fourth dimension. Wow. I channel higher dimensional masters and Jesus, Mother Mary. Tonight I'll be channeling Saint Germain, because he's going to be talking about the peace within that we can find. Right. And so I have others that I've channeled too for various reasons have popped in at various times. And it's a matter of being like on a radio dial. You kind of tune into the right frequency, and that's what life really is all about. It's energy that is a vibration and frequency, and we are just physical forms from that formless energy. Yeah. And so when you connect to that connected energy of that particular entity, then they can talk through you, and you can ask questions and have conversations. I also talk to people passed over if their relatives or friends have passed on and they want to have communication. I have some pretty interesting, and that's one of the sessions I'm going to have on my radio show coming up, is talking to people passed over of the experiences of that, because I've learned a lot from that.
Right.
People come back and can tell you what's going on the other side. It's really enlightening and very informative, because we really have blinders on our eyes, and it can really open up a whole new world.
Yeah.
So channeling has brought a lot of information. My books are basically channeled. The words come through, I guess you'd say, inspirationally.
Right.
And I write it out. Sometimes I know it directly that's what is going on, that when I'm typing, I call it typing, but using the computer, that I'm just writing out what they're telling me to do. So when it comes from a higher source, you know that you're getting the truth. If it's negative, run the other way.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, because that's something that, being a man of faith and knowing, yes, there's spirit world, but I also know that there's dangers to that too. So I was just going to ask you about that. Yeah,
the thing is that I was attending a spiritual church at one point, and they had a session one day after church, and this entity came in, and it was rather negative and destructive, and I left and never went back.
Yeah.
And I'd been a part of that church for some time. What I know today is that if it's a positive, loving message, that it's the truth.
Right.
And, of course, that's what we're trying to accomplish, is moving into that higher, unconditional love where there's no criticism, no judgment, no right or wrong, and that we are coming from unconditional love with forgiveness, compassion, gratitude, and so that we're coming together. See, love is the great glue. And so any messages that are helping you to bring your life into a more full experience, more loving experience, raising you into a higher way to handle things so that they're more productive, that's all very positive and good. You want to feel good. And if it doesn't make you feel good, then you don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Because good is another word for God. God is a label for this energy that we all have within us, and when we open our hearts, we can actually experience it and share it with others.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Marilyn, I love speaking with you. I always learn so much, and I feel I always have this good feeling when I'm talking with you.
Thank you very much.
And tonight now, okay, if people want to, can people listen in to the show tonight when you're on? It starts at 6 Pacific time, right, I think?
Yeah, they actually have to, I'm trying to find the information here for you.
Well, they can go to the Ashtar website, right, probably?
They can go to the best place to send them is the Ashtar website.
Okay, I have ashtarontheroad.com.
That's right.
It has everything on there, and I see your beautiful picture, and Love Never Fails with Marilyn Redmond.
Right.
And then there's going to be a few other, there's a lot going on. In that show. Wow. Okay, so that's 6 Pacific time, guys. If you go to Ashtar on the Road, ASHTAR on the road.com, you'll be able to, I guess, click in there and hear Marilyn this evening. But that's awesome. And Marilyn, do you want to just now your radio show, Love Never Fails? When can people catch that? Where can they catch that?
Okay, it'll be on 6 o'clock tonight on Eastern time anyway.
Okay, got it.
And it's on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
All right, awesome. And then now the newest book we were talking about, Finding Reality Beyond Fear, which is just another great work. Now that's Amazon, right? You said all your books, Amazon?
Yes, or they can come to my website and that'll take you to Amazon too. So the books are available. There's some paperback books, half a dozen, and also about half a dozen e-books, which are just little articles, you might say. But they're very valuable. All my information is different ways to approach improving our lives into a way that works and it's going to be productive and be, we're going to be our real self, and we don't have to play games or wear masks. We can be genuine.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great stuff, Marilyn. I want to just thank you so much for being on today. Really, really do appreciate it.
Well, I just have a great time talking with you.
And I wish you the best tonight. And I know you're going to just blow them away. And I just wish you the best. And I hope to speak with you again.
Well, I'd love that. I want to update the getting hold of my radio show. If they the link boldbravemedia.com will put them right on my show.
Okay.
boldbravemedia.com.
boldbravemedia.com.
All one word.
All right. That's it, guys. You heard it here. Reverend Marilyn Redmond. Thank you so much, Marilyn. You have an awesome day.
Well, I'm planning on it, and you have a terrific day yourself.
All right. Thank you. God bless.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, guys. Reverend Marilyn Redmond. Go pick up her new book, Finding Reality Beyond Fear. It's available on Amazon. And stick around, guys. We have a lot more coming up here on WMAPradio.com.